I am truly delighted to welcome each of you to the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank's Global Conference and to St. Kitts and Nevis, the birthplace of Alexander Hamilton, the first U.S. Treasury Secretary. Hint, hint, you got to go to Nevis before you leave. There's a museum there for you to observe. Some of you have traveled far at considerable effort and cost to share this milestone moment, and I am very grateful to you, especially our African, Pacific, and Asian brothers and sisters. Let's give them a round of applause, please. You and I know it's not too easy to get around this currency union. If you're coming from abroad, you know how difficult it is. They really wanted to be here, and we wanted you to be here, and you are here. Thank you very much. To my colleague Caribbean governors, I truly appreciate your effort to be with us this week, having regard to the fact that you traveled to Jamaica, hosted by Governor Biles, our chairman, last week for a CARICOM governors meeting. For those from the ECCU visiting ECCB for the first time, I extend a special welcome. And to those returning, especially our licensed financial institutions, I say welcome back. I haven't seen some of you since the pandemic, so we're happy to see you all. This is your central bank. We work for you. We have had an extraordinary year of celebrations under the theme ECCB at 40, a year of reflection, celebration, and implementation. And our Deputy Governor has covered this area quite ably. Our global conference theme today is Fit for the Times, building resilience and embracing innovation for transformation. There's an end to innovation for transformation. So, in partnership with Central Banking, we have put together an interesting array of topics and an impressive lineup of speakers, and we anticipate an enjoyable and memorable conference. If I turn for a moment to macroeconomic developments, I would observe the following. In our personal lives, the age 40 is considered middle age and often brings with it midlife crisis. As an institution, we are still relatively young, but we are confronting, like all of you, what the managing director of the fund describes as the polycrisis. Now, over the past 4 decades, the ECCB has safeguarded financial stability and supported economic resilience of our region. We have maintained the stability of the EC dollar pegged at US 1 to EC 2.7 since 1976. And I say these things for our friends who are coming in who may not be so familiar with the currency union. We have backed our currency with strong foreign reserves, and the recent pandemic and previous shocks attest. I wish to report this morning as your governor that our EC dollar remains very strong. At this moment, the backing is 94.7%. The law requires us to be at 60%. Before the pandemic, we were just over 100. During the pandemic, and we came down to around 89, 90. We're back up to almost 95. We are trending back up. But what this proves is the potency of our decision to hold these reserves, which are costly, we accept, but which we see as a veritable insurance policy. In other words, to weather shocks such as we have experienced over the last many years. Our region's strong post-pandemic recovery continues, and the ECCB projects growth of over 6.5% next year, slide 4 please, and 5% this year and 5% next year. Our current debt to GDP ratio stands at around 73%. You will note it jumped to 88% during the pandemic, and now it's back down to 73%, and we expect it to continue to trend downwards. At the commencement of our 40th anniversary celebration, I posed the question, what will it take to double the size of our economies over the next decade? This is a question that we've been contemplating all year and on which we continue to cogitate. We have articulated some perspectives on this question through what we describe or call the theaters of transformation. And we remain open to your ideas and fresh thinking on this aspirational challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, the shocks keep coming. And as we deliberate on our theme, Fit for the Times, Building Resilience, and Embracing Innovation for Transformation, I wish to briefly highlight 3 key points before I sit. 1, climate risk is financial risk. 2, digital innovation is critical for financial inclusion and resilience. And 3, financial stability, financial inclusion, and resilience require strong regional and international cooperation. We are now at a stage that the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres termed an era of global boiling. Remember, it used to be warming? It's now boiling. According to NASA scientists, July 2023 was the hottest month on record, and 2023 is on pace to be the hottest year ever. On this track, our planet, now at 1.2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial, could exceed in some years 1.5 degrees Celsius before 2030. In the Caribbean, the frequency of natural disasters, according to an IMF 2018 study, is 7 times higher than anywhere else in the world. And the losses from those disasters are 6 times higher than the global average. Moreover, on an annual basis, our countries lose about 2.5% in GDP due to these seasonal events, weather events. Welcome to vulnerability and resilience. And then, of course, we experience these wipeout events, such as we saw in Grenada with Hurricane Ivan in 2004, 200% of GDP. And in Dominica in 2017, Hurricane Maria, 226% of GDP. Climate change poses an existential risk to our region. And therefore, we must do everything in our power to preserve and have a livable planet. At the risk of stoking cultural wars, and I'm not in that this morning, and in all seriousness, we have a stark choice. We have to choose between what some refer to as woke central banking and what I refer to as smoke central banking. You get to choose. We get to choose. My point is we simply cannot ignore climate risk because it touches and concerns financial stability. In this regard, we support the Bridgetown 2.0 initiative, which Prime Minister Mia Mottley has championed, not just for Barbados and the Caribbean, but for the global South. To that end, we welcome the adoption of climate-resilient debt clauses by the IDB, IMF, World Bank, and the Caribbean Bank, Development Bank, an innovation that was first pioneered in Grenada in 2014. And we have strongly advocated for same for the past decade. Now, while we agree with the necessity for disclosures and effective stress testing by regulators and financial licensees, these efforts are necessary but not sufficient. To meet this moment, significant climate capital is required for adaptation and for loss and damage. In this regard, we call on the international community to support the efforts of emerging economies, developing economies, and small island developing states, SIDS, to create green finance markets. We have a panel or two on that today, or this week. To that end, we also call for the broad adoption of the multi-dimensional vulnerability index for determining access to grants and concessional financing, as opposed to the archaic reliance on per capita income, which, frankly spoken, is an analytical absurdity and is simply not fit for purpose. If my words sung a little fighting this morning, it's because we are fighting for survival. This is the neighborhood in which we live, and I make no apologies for that. Secondly, digital innovation is critical for financial inclusion. The payment system must work for all except illicit actors. I repeat, the payment system must work for all except illicit actors. The ECCB is modernizing its payment system, recognizing the significance of strong oversight policies to support financial inclusion and resilience. Results from our inaugural financial inclusion survey indicate about 3 in 5 persons in our region do not have bank accounts. And of course, we have a specific challenge with the ease or lack thereof of opening a bank account. And we will hear from the working group on Friday when we get a report on that. Therefore, as smartphones continue to proliferate with high mobile cellular subscription, we believe that central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, could have bridged the, financial inclusion gap. Consequently, the ECCB intends to move forward with alacrity with its digital currency, Dcash, and will, in the next few months, conclude its pilot and launch Dcash 2.0, which is commercial deployment. Ultimately, customers will choose their channel based on cost, convenience, and dare I say, yes, cybersecurity. We simply say, give customers their remote control and let them choose their channels. Do we have agreement on that? LFIs? I'm not begging you. You got to catch the vision, and you got to run with it. Thank you. And we took note of those who said yes and those who didn't answer. And those who said no will not be allowed to leave the campus until you come to a more enlightened path. Just kidding. We will continue our focus on the enablers and safeguards for cyber resilience because we understand the responsibility we have there. We therefore welcome the efforts of the IMF, BIS, CPMI to include the voices of the Caribbean in the work of advancing the G20 roadmap on cross-border payments. In respect of generative AI, we regard it as a tool which we can use to advance our mandates, and we are prepared to work with others to ensure appropriate governance arrangements for this powerful emerging technology. Finally, collective action is required. The ECCB was formed in the crucible of colonization, and from a very interesting branch of mathematics, which found that 1 from 10 leaves naught. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, we had a federation between 1958 and 62. One member country decided to leave. There were 10 of us. And when that country, which was a big country, which shall remain nameless, I'll leave you to do your homework, left, the erudite prime minister, who was a scholar, highly acclaimed scholar, said 1 from 10 leaves naught. And that's where the federation ended. And we were left trying to figure out our next move. And if you read Sir Arthur Lewis's article, The Agony of the Little Eight, he speaks pellucidly to the moment of despair that descended as these small states try to figure out how they will survive. But you know what? Through solidarity and collective action, we came together and we did just that. And as they say, the rest is history. And so I make the point this morning, in the context of a world that is increasingly vulnerable to shocks, a shock-prone world as it is called, the criticality of regional and international cooperation and collective action cannot be overemphasized. Now more than ever, our world needs collective action to navigate the current polycrisis. The ECCB has done it for the past 40 years and stands ready to cooperate with everyone as we navigate these challenging times. Ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude, and you will be pleased to know I am in my conclusion, by thanking all our speakers, expert panelists, and all those who have come together to make this conference the special moment that it is. A special kudos to our planning teams, both at Central Banking and the ECCB. They have worked exceptionally hard. Please put your hands together for our planning teams. I convey my gratitude to all who have contributed to making this conference a reality and a resounding success. Now, let's have some fun. That's allowed. I thank you.